the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Okay, good morning councillors, good morning officers, and welcome to our meeting for the 25th of October 2022. Good drop of rain last night, but it could be hit and miss sometimes, and we are hoping. I have to see an update and see whether the dam received any or not, but that said. Councillors, I'll officially open the meeting, and first I'd like to acknowledge acknowledgement of country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land in which we meet today, that are humble people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to our neighbouring Aboriginal peoples within our local government area, the Gungaloo Nation people, the Barada, Cabelbarra and Yeddamarala people, and extend that acknowledgement to the Torres Strait Islanders people whose lands are in the Torres Strait but who live and work on Aboriginal land. So thank you, councillors. We have a full house, a full complement today. Ross is the acting CEO, stepping into the big seat today. So we'll have to, we'll bear that in mind when we throw those curlies at him. Councillors, leaves of absence, nil, so we'll move on to confirmation of the previous minutes from the meeting held on the 11th of October to be confirmed as a true and accurate record of that. Move Councillor Smith. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wickerson. Councillors, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Councillor Kirkland, your light's on. Did you have a question?
Oh, it's just automatically thought I must have had something to say.
So keep moving on. Councillors, item 5, declarations on interest in matters on the agenda. Do we have any declarations? If not, and during the course of the meeting, if something arises that you find that there is a conflict, we're happy to pause and record that at that time. So that said, we'll keep moving on to business outstanding, lifting matters from the table. There's officer's recommendation that the following matters be lifted from the table to be dealt with accordingly. Development application for material change of use for a dwelling house within the existing boundary, and also the risk registers quarterly updates for the 1st of July 2022. Could I have a mover and a seconder that we move those? Councillor Kirkland, a seconder. Councillor Mathers, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. I'm not sure what would happen if we didn't approve those, but anyway, it's that was unanimous. Public forum deputations nil. Presentation of petitions. Councillors, we have 2 petitions, and Councillor Rutherford would like to present those on behalf of the community. So, Councillor Rutherford, I'll ask you to present those petitions, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do have 2 petitions here on behalf of the community, mostly to do with disabled facilities. So Councillor Fisher, as acting mayor, and myself met with a group of people who were representing the disabled community, and they brought to our attention the lack of change facilities for disabled people in our bigger swimming pools, for instance, which the swimming pools is a key exercise venue, and so it's very important, and they're having to change their teenage children, I suppose, basically on tables out in the open because there is just no facility, you know, and that's totally inappropriate no matter which way you look at it. So lot of detail in this petition, so I'd like to table that for a report back to council. And the other one,
So, councillor, that one would be to the facilities. That'd be to Alicia's
communities, yeah.
communities,
Yep.
community team. So, report on that be brought back.
Yeah.
And
And the
second?
second one was also a point that was raised with disabled parking. Once again, something, we have lots of disabled parking, but it's all side entry and exit from a vehicle. Most of the disabled vehicles now are rear entry and exit, and so people cannot get entry and exit to their vehicles. In a lot of cases, they're having to double park to be able to access their vehicles. They risk fines, and it's also dangerous as well. So some very, very valid points, great discussions that we had in that meeting, and I look forward to some reports back so that we can get our head around these issues that, you know, a section of our community are certainly, you know, being disadvantaged by. So I table them and look forward to reports
Okay,
in the
and
future.
that's gone to the General Manager of Regional Services for that petition there, Councillor Rutherford. So we have two separate recommendations, so we might move them separately. So you're happy to move in both instances, and Councillor Fisher is happy to second in both instances. So I'll put the first. Put the recommendation. Those in favour? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. And the second one, again, with the same mover and seconder, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors, and we'll look forward to those reports as they come through. Nil committee reports and nil councillor delegation reports, and we'll move on to the officers' reports. Item 11.1, 2023 major events calendar, and we'll hand over to Greg to present that report. Thanks very much, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. In front of you, you should have the proposed 2023 major events calendar. The majority of that calendar is made up of events that are delivered by Advanced Rockhampton, both in the civic and community space and in those major external events. There are also a smattering of other events around the region, but we try and keep this to major events that attract significant visitors, or at least we're aiming to attract significant visitors. There are a couple of exceptions on there, of course, which we agreed to last year, so I've kept them running this year. But this calendar really has a dual purpose. One, from a marketing point of view, this will go far and wide over the next couple of months or the next year. But it also has the purpose of giving surety to the events team, and whether that be dates, whether that be contracts, whether that be dealing with suppliers and vendors into these events as well. So this is probably about as late as I would want to bring this calendar to the chamber for those reasons, especially from a contractual basis, you know, doing things year by year. Our aim here, as I've said in the past with major events, is to give an offering, but also from our point of view, give consistency of dates, consistency of offering, so that when people know that January comes around, they'll know what Australia Day is going to look like, as of next year anyway, at least, because we'll talk about that format. They'll know what River Festival looks like, you know, and I myself feel that we're back to its former glory after the River Festival just passed, from an arts point of view and an offering. You know, this is really about that consistency of offering and being able to now give surety to the team to go out and negotiate sponsors, contracts, suppliers and such. So I suppose easy enough, Mayor and councillors, I'll take questions, if any, rather than prattle on any longer.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I'll just have a comment there to start off with. It's great to have a calendar for the year to give our community the livability that we expect as the and great to see Advanced Rockhampton as a premier organisation providing those events to our community. There's a lot of work and detail go into presenting these events for our community, and it's great to see that we've got the calendar and the format there for the following year. So on that, I have a number of lights. We might go around the table and get some questions from the councillors. So I'm not sure in what order they were all on, but we'll start with Councillor Wickerson and work our way around from there. Councillor Wickerson, thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through you to Greg. Greg, really pleased to see River Festival back where it started in the middle of the year, and everyone understands why it was moved the first time, so good to see it back when it's probably a bit cooler and a bit more less likely to rain. But also doesn't conflict with other major events. So the question is, have we cross-checked with other of our neighbours' schedules of calendar of events, just to make sure that there's no significant events or even probably slightly lesser ones that we might rob Peter to pay Paul?
Certainly, Councillor Wickerson, as much as we can with dates. And again, you know, I suppose I'd rather bring this even earlier next year. So the earlier we get this calendar in place, the sooner we get in first, if you know what I mean. So we checked as much as we can. A lot still haven't named dates, so that's a challenge. So maybe Rockhampton gets to lead the pack and others might have to check our calendar. I don't mean that egotistically, of course, but you know, we've checked as much as we can. Certainly with that July date, we've tried to check that, and I should have mentioned that, that change back to July as well. We see that as a good fit, both from an event calendar point of view and, yes, feedback that we've received. So we feel we can still offer a very good event, you know, whether it's July or October. So, yeah, so definitely checked what we could.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Greg, firstly I'd like to say congratulations and thank you. It's great work. One little thing I'm just wondering is when we go Rockhampton, is it possible to go Rockhampton region? So it says Rockhampton 2023 events calendar. Can we make sure that we always talk about it as a region? And then the other thing, and there may be a perfect reason behind this, but when I think of events calendars from other places, they're usually jam-packed, as full as they possibly can be. So is there a reason why we've kept this limited to just events that we sort of have something to do with as opposed to a broader scale? And if I look at this year, we had the motor cross event, which was massive. We had a big karate, national championships for karate. So there are other events that have a huge draw for us as well. So should they not be included in a calendar like this?
Yes, I understand the question. We've tried to keep this to a major events calendar as a marketing tool. A lot of the events you're speaking about, and we'll speak about another one later today, are major sporting events that really have their market already set up. I'm not going to visit for a karate championship necessarily or anything like that, whereas if I'm involved, I will. So we've tried to keep it to that major event as an external marketing tool to South East Queensland and interstate to go, come to Rocky Nats, come to River Festival, these sort of events that people might travel for. So the major sporting events, I get that, but the more jam-packed that also people look at it and go, too busy, too hard, you know, along the way. You know, so there's no reason why we couldn't work to have on the dare I say this, the RRC website, a more jam-packed calendar if that's what we wanted, but somebody has to manage that, of course. So, and that would then involve a number of community events and such like that. So, yeah, that's a job for somebody else. So I don't want to give somebody else a job on that front. So but I hear what you're saying. So we have tried to keep it to those major events, and the reason those civic events are in there are more because we manage them at the end of the day.
I did note that Councillor Latcham had raised about the Ridgeland show, and it probably would be nice to have that popped on there, but otherwise I think it's a...
I think we may need to do more like a community events rather than, and I think Greg's right, he's not trying to give it off to another department, but it may be something we can do in-house somewhere just to have a more of a, you know, an event one where it's probably a monthly one or a community calendar that could capture those other events, because again, there is a lot of work that goes on in between that we can't all put into one events calendar. Like this is the major draw card for the region and one we'll promote, but not say that any of those others are any less rewarding. But again, we may look at another option to include them in another process.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Kirkland, Councillor Smith and Councillor Fisher.
I think Councillor Smith was keen to go. Let her go.
Councillor Smith, sorry.
Okay, I'll wait.
Oh.
Even though my light was on first, I'll wait.
I've come back off leave, Councillor, so give me a bit of slack, but we'll take that question, Councillor Smith, and I'll...
No, it's okay. Yeah, so I just wonder what the Big Beer Festival was and whether we should be promoting alcohol on our calendar, but I didn't know that we were associated with it or that we donated to it. I just wondered if I could get some information on that.
No, we don't, but again, we see it as a major draw if we can get it going that way. Like we don't, or we do contribute to Cap Food and Wine, of course, but we see them as potential draw card events that might bring people to the city.
Okay, so the way I read it was that Advance Rockhampton were either sponsoring it or running it.
No, but
That's the way I read it, and I wondered why we were promoting the Archers, but we haven't got the Mayor's Cup on there. But that comes up every year to see whether we want to sponsor it or not. And the one I thought should have been on there, and a lot of people come every year for a reunion, is the Mount Morgan May Day Festival. The whole long weekend in May. You know, a lot of people flock to Mount Morgan, and I thought, well, that's a major event for the whole region.
Probably from a racing point of view, the Mayor's Cup doesn't really rate a mention outside of Rockhampton. The Archer certainly does. Again, a draw. Probably, I think, if I remember the numbers, there were about 22% of visitors to that event last year, and this year, next year, it's looking to be a lot more than that from a draw of number of external visitors. And Rocky Cup the same, so they're really the two big draw. They're not the internal events. Caulfield, if you want to look at big race days, Caulfield Cup Day is actually the largest internal draw. From a Mount Morgan point of view, we included the show purely because we're including shows and Ridgelands, as Councillor Latcham raised. We included the hill sprint, even though we're not heavily involved in that, because we see that as a potential draw externally. So.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Wickerson, for asking the question around collaboration and checking on what other calendars are doing. And it's great to know that we're leading the way and getting those calendars out there. So that was one of my questions. I noticed that Paradise Lagoons have moved the camp draft date there to not clash with Rocky Nats, or you've moved it, I don't know, but we've had a conversation clearly, which is great, because they're both awesome events. I still am wondering around the number of events there, whether there's opportunity to continue to add to it. So it is obviously that you will be pursuing adding additional events, correct? This isn't the be all and end all. This isn't where you draw a line in the sand. Am I correct?
If that's a question, Councillor Kirkland, you are 100% correct. And when we get to the new economic strategy over the next couple of weeks, you'll see our targets and our actions on attracting new events, because we want a full event calendar, major event calendar. As you see, we have a March gap there. We are limited a little bit by our weather here, but certainly, budget aside, if I can put it that way, we are pursuing events as they come up, and a number of those over the next 10 years could potentially be sporting events as well, and as we will again later speak about one of those that are great draws for us. But as far as livability and visitability, we'll look at events. Certainly music events is one that has been raised as a key future item for us.
You've mentioned two things there that were going to be my next question. Certainly I'm not absolutely support all major sporting events, state and national events in our region. We should be holding those, and that's a great idea. And you've touched on music, which is the arts, and I think we have this fantastic facility with our art museum, and we really need to capitalise on that and draw as many other art culture type events to our region as possible. So I do hope that they're on your radar to put Rocky on the radar.
They are, Councillor Kirkland, and when it comes to the Museum of Art, it was great to have them participating in River Festival. We're already in collaboration chats around Rocky Nats and what they might be able to do there to make it relevant as well. It was great to see the number of people going through there on the Friday night and the Saturday night. I think it was Saturday night as well. They opened, might have only been the Friday night, but the Friday night they opened. The amount of people that were going through there on an evening was quite wonderful to see. So, and I know it was an arts-related festival, so I suppose it made sense, and with Gaia there. But yeah, certainly that. But yeah, other music festival, Country on Key on the Friday night, proved my point and everyone's thoughts, or most thoughts along the way, that country music works. And to me, with your permission, that won't be the last of country music that you see Advanced Rockhampton delivering. I have a plan for Australia Day around that as well, and that's when I talk about consistency events. I want to make Australia Day and have a chat with this chamber around what that format might look like going forward, so that people can see that it means something. It's not just Australia Day, it's actually related to something. So I'm going to stay in town on January the 26th, not just to have a barbecue or listen to a band. It could be country, it could be folk, whatever it might be, but we will come with a plan for that.
Sounds great.
Thanks very much, Councillor Kirkland. And again, I'm very passionate about sporting, and it's one there I think we've overlooked for many, many years, and I think it's one we can start to improve in. Unfortunately, a reduction in the budget doesn't help that to that end, but I think there's ways that we can achieve that by working with our community and getting more events to the region, but yeah, and working with other levels of government for facility upgrades as well. So I want to see that improve in the years to come, because I think there's a great opportunity there for for our economy and for the region going forward.
Mayor,
Thank
you and I have
Councillor.
spoken about that, and you know, sorry to butt in, but you and I have spoken about that, and I believe, but also tied in with 2032. I think I've said it in this chamber before. Let's not think 2032. It's just a sort of stake in the ground when the Olympics will be. It's what can we capitalise pre and post as well, because I mean, when it's the actual Olympics, who knows? Somebody might decide that we get something, but it's really what sporting events can we really highlight. If you haven't yet looked at the sporting destination guide that the tourism and events team designed, please jump online and have a look at it. It's probably about 6 months old now, but you know, that's our market, again, an external marketing document highlighting some of the great facilities that we actually have in Rockhampton, well, hopefully nearly all the great facilities, and that has helped us start a conversation with several sporting bodies, as the Mayor knows.
Not to drag it on, but we produce some of the best sporting superstars around, coming from our homegrown talent right here, and I think we've got plenty more in the pipeline that we want to get out of the
That's right.
region.
We need to utilise those champions a little bit more than we have as well.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Greg. Councillor Fisher, then Councillor Wex. Latchin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Good save.
Look, I thought this is really good to actually have this put together, and thanks, Greg, and your team. I had a couple of questions other than what has already been asked, and one is associated with the Rockhampton show and the history. I've been doing a bit of homework, Mr Mayor, on the Rocky Roundup, and how that was a very much a part of the Rockhampton show, and being the 150th show, how that could be worked. And in the process there was trying to track down some of the past champions, and I had the opportunity of the late 1950s Rocky Roundup champion, as well as most of the other key rodeo events, Theo Stonehouse, to actually meet him last week. He's moved to Tully now as a retired gentleman in his late 80s, but boy, I tell you what, I wish I was that good if I ever reached my 80s. But that was an attraction for all over Queensland, and we know how the rodeo events and that great draw cards. But if I could throw that seed as something that could be a part of the Rockhampton show and the draw. The other one is, Mr Mayor, I'd like to sort of raise about the garden competition. And firstly, I'm the patron of the Horticultural Society, the Orchid Society, the Bonsai Society, and the I'm missing one I can't think of. But I'd just like to raise the garden competition is one that has not resurrected after COVID, and just where that sits. I know that there are organisations that would like to take over it, but it is a Rockhampton Regional Council event. But it is sort of something that's missing. And garden competitions, while they don't sound very sexy, they do promote the pride in the city and the beautification in the city. And had a conversation with a few of the other local governments about their reviving their garden competitions, and especially after the success of some of the western ones, particularly in Boulia, where the whole town was a mass of colour, and though they've only got a few hundred residents all up, it does promote pride. So we'd like to sort of see some sort of discussion. I'll have to sort of stay out of it because of sort of perceived conflicts, but would just like to raise that.
Yes, Councillor Fisher, I'll take that conversation up again with the leadership team, but we did have it last year at budget time, and it agreed, and it probably doesn't fit with a major event calendar. It probably somehow sits, depending on the size of it, it probably sits in the community events, but you know, it could straddle both AR and community. But again, that'll come down to funding. It'll come down to, is that the space we want to be back into? So, you know, it's not, but I don't see it as being part of the major event calendar which we're speaking about today, that's all.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Is it something if a community organisation came to AR and said, hey, we'd like to stage the Rockhampton Garden Competition like it was back in the 70s and 80s, and would sort of seek some support? Is that something that AR would be open to?
It probably comes down to, again, back into that community side and a cap grant if there was some sort of sponsorship rather than an AR run or collaboration, to be really honest with you.
And that's
Alicia's going to make comment. I'm trying not to give you any work here, Alicia.
Thanks, Greg. Through the chair then. So that is what our community assistance program is for. So we target organisations that want to run events in our city, and so they would certainly be eligible to apply for something like that should they have that motivation to do so.
Thank you.
I think it'll fit well in there, Councillor Fisher, under that cap. And obviously from an advance point of view, we would, as we do with a lot of these cap projects, we do a lot of the marketing as well, or joint marketing, to make sure that the event gets out there. So,
Thanks, Greg. Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and through you, if I may, through to Greg. Greg, congratulations on starting on with this one and bringing this back to for the community to have a look at our major events. Just one of the couple of things I just want to mention. Ridgeland Show, I think, should be in there. That's just an opinion. It probably generates more people attending it than some of these events that are on here. But my question, I guess, is when I look at this year and what AR or the council has supported or sponsored through the year, I notice that there's nothing about the APR or Professional Rodeo. And with many of those through the year that we've made obviously a commitment to it, is that something that was possibly overlooked on this one?
Well, it is, but it isn't, Councillor Latcham. We're beating them out with the dates. So a number of those sort of organisations, like the NRL, hasn't put their draw out yet for the next year. So they will actually, PBR was on here in 2022, and it will be on here in 2023. It's a living document, this one. So once PBR comes, they will all go on here, but they just haven't announced dates. And the beauty of that is they now, after even 1 year of sponsorship and partnership, they have actually come to us and said, what date, have you got specific dates you would like? So they're now asking us and working with us, and that was how we were able to secure Easter Saturday, and we're trying to secure an extra one next year that fits in with one of these major events. So PBR will be on here because we see that as a major event for the city. So once they go out there with their calendar and make an announcement, we don't want to steal their thunder, even though we don't know their dates yet.
Okay, great. Thanks for hearing that. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, and I'd support Councillor Latcham there with the Ridgelands one. I think it is a significant event and one we should push out there if we can. If it's not overcrowding and there's room, why not?
No, I'm happy to do that.
Thanks, Greg. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, look, I was just picking up what Councillor Fisher said about the garden competition. I think that's something that, you know, it's a shame that we dropped it. I think it just got too big, it got lost within the Tropicana, and then we don't want to run Tropicana anymore, which I think is a real shame. Because the garden competition was actually a regional garden competition, because I think Fitzroy Shire and Mount Morgan used to have their individual ones anyway before amalgamation. And I just think it's a shame that that got lost.
Yeah, look, and again, it's, you know, these things tend to happen over time, but it's one we could, again, talk with and workshop as we go forward. I think getting the community involved and getting their ownership of it can help us, you know, with our financial position at the moment. It'd be great to see the community step up and take on something like that, where it's pride about our city and our region, and what that means in, you know, their people's own front yards and in beautification of that. So I think there's ways we can all work together to, you know, maybe start to get that community support to get a project like that happening.
Just my other comment was, again, what Councillor Fisher said about the 150th show next year. People have tried to resurrect the Rocky Roundup without any success. There is so many other organisations now that run major rodeos, like the one that's happening in November. There's also another organisation as well. And I think when Rocky Roundup was popular, there was no other rodeos, and it was a huge draw card that Mr Pilbeam actually went out and got sponsorship for on his own. And if you look at it, I've got an old poster at home, and the prize money was huge. But they used the whole of the showgrounds as well. These days you've got to build an arena, so it would be a lot of labour to build an arena, whereas out at CQLX at the Gracemere Sale Yards, it's already set up for a rodeo.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Councillor Smith. Great comments. Councillor Mathers, I think we've all gone around and asked questions there. So
thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Just through you to Greg, if that's okay. Greg, just wanted to say thanks very much for being proactive and pushing to get this out. I think it's very important, particularly when we look at school holidays at the start of the year, people planning their holidays. Look, we might drop into Rocky. Let's have a look. For them to better go online and see this and go, wow, there's almost something every month. So no matter what month we might want to come and visit, there'll be something on. So the sooner we can fill March, and I know you're working on that, I understand it's a living document, but the sooner we can put something in there, I just think it's a really good base to start with, and good work, because people plan ahead for their holidays, and this could be the difference between someone deciding to stay in Rocky for a weekend or not. That's
right. Thanks, Councillor Mathers, and I think that also comes down to that consistency of offering as well, not just consistency of dates, but consistency of offering. And I'd probably big shout out to my events team. If one of them would be listening, I know, and they do a great job. They're in a rebuild phase at the moment, but that's the direction they have on your behalf, is that we want consistency of offering, so that people can go, I'm staying home at Easter, I'm staying home on Australia Day, I'm going to do these events in Rockhampton. And then, of course, we've got those multiple community events. I myself thought I was going to be travelling back to Brisbane a lot more to see my children when I started this role. Somehow there is something every weekend that stops me from going back there. But so it is great to see the activity, whether it be in the major events calendar or the community events calendar. If people want to get off that couch, they have something to do.
Yep. Thanks very much, Greg. And I'll take this opportunity before we move to the resolution just to thank the team for the River Festival and the work that goes on in the background. It's tireless work, and it takes a team effort to bring events like that off. And so if you can pass on the thanks from the table in that space. So
thank you, Mayor.
I'm sure you'll do that. So I'm happy to move as recommended on this one, and we have a second with Councillor Fisher, Deputy Mayor. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Greg. And we'll move on to our second item, 11.2, specialised supply for Rockhampton Airport, CR Kennedy. And we have Marcus online. And Marcus, would you like to present that report for us, please?
No worries, Mayor. Morning, Mayor and Councillors. So 11.2, specialised supply at Rockhampton Airport. We're, as part of our security infrastructure planning for the airport and the apron, we've looked at how we cover not just the apron but the runway in certain areas, and we came across this panoramic camera that actually covers the whole runway, not only the runway but the approach at either end, so you can view aircraft on approach, which I guess is good if you have bird strikes or so on. When the aircraft is or prior to landing. So there is only one supplier that actually can supply these cameras, and we've trialled it for about 3 or 4 months now, and we've seen the benefits, and we'd like to proceed. To proceed, we have to go through this supplier to actually purchase the camera. The camera is second-hand. It's been a demo camera. There's enormous savings with purchasing the camera, I believe in the vicinity of $80,000. The hardware and the software that drive the camera are all brand new. It comes with warranty and serviceability as well for the future. I think the report explains itself there, so I'm happy to take questions if there's any.
Okay, thanks very much, Marcus. I've got a couple of questions there. I'll firstly go to Deputy Mayor Councillor Fisher, portfolio for the airport. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd like to move this, but what Marcus highlighted, with some of these things for public safety, but also there, the Rockhampton Airport there is still sort of striving to actually do as much as they can with the budget. And I think, as Marcus said, one of the things was that we were able to use and be able to purchase equipment that's good, but it wasn't brand new, that we can still get the value, but without going to the full cost. So I think this will make a big difference, but it is that ability there to prevent bird strikes, which do affect airport operations. So that's a big thing, and I commend this report to Council.
Thanks, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Mathers?
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Just through you to Marcus, if that's okay.
Yes.
Marcus, thanks very much for the report. I totally understand the importance of this camera, and I agree that it's something, the technology that's out there today, it's quite incredible. And, I agree that this brand of camera is one of the best that are out there that's available for multiple lens, panoramic type cameras. The question I do have, or the concerns I have, is in regards to the fact that, it's 5-year-old technology. I understand that the software and hardware that's coming with it, the software can be updated, but the technology is still 5 years old. So my concern with that is we know ourselves, just with the TVs and sound system stuff we buy in our own homes, 5 years is quite old when you compare it to that. So I suppose the question I've got is in regards to, they're saying they can only supply the parts for up to 2 years to repair it. I'm wondering what warranty is available on this if it's a 5-year-old camera. And in regards to pricing, I understand there's considerable savings there, but if you were looking at buying anything else that was 5-year-old technology with electronic equipment, it would be a lot less expensive than the $39,000 compared to $110,000. I'm just wondering whether the percentage of the amount of the discount that is being offered here is really good value compared to what a new unit is worth.
Yes, I can answer that through the chair, Councillor Mathers. The camera itself is only $10,000. The whole package is $39,000 with the new hardware and software and so on. A new camera is $89,000. And this camera is $10,000. If you add the software onto the $89,000, it becomes the $110,000. And obviously, if you add the software onto the $10,000, it's $39,000 installed. So the software, the hardware itself, as in the camera, is very similar to a new camera. The technology hasn't changed over 5 years like a TV or a mobile phone or another gadget with a lot of technology in it. So the camera, I've got comfort that it can do the same job and function exactly the same as a new one. The software and the hardware that drives the camera is brand new and the latest technology. So I've got comfort in the whole package that we are getting bang for our buck.
No, thanks very much, Marcus, for that explanation, because I was just looking at the percentage and it didn't look like that good a value. But if you look at the unit that we're looking at, which is second-hand, it's the camera, you're saying it's about 10 grand versus about 80, so it's 1/8 of the price. So I think that makes a lot more sense to me as far as value for money for a second-hand unit. So thanks for explaining that.
Yeah, and my apologies, or maybe I should have explained that a little bit more in depth in the report. And we have seen benefits over the last 2 months with this camera, with military exercises, with tyres blowing on C-130s. We've had a light aircraft nearly flip. We've had a bird strike from Alliance, which they questioned, and we could actually see the bird get hit on approach prior to hitting the tarmac. So we've used it very well in the last 2 months.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much, Marcus, for that explanation. Councillor Wickerson?
Thanks, Mayor. Through you to Marcus too. Just a couple of questions, Marcus. And I'm very pleased to always save money, so that's good. In the past, I think I might have suggested buying some surplus or second-hand equipment. I thought there was an issue with, whether it's legislation or our own policy, that we couldn't tender for second-hand or used equipment. So is that just a matter for the table to get around? I'm just worried about it.
I'll just go to Ross for that answer. Thanks, Marcus.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. The actual camera itself is second-hand, so it doesn't actually need approval, but the software is brand new, so that's why we need to come through. Really, it's the software we're approving here. That's the majority of the money. But if it was just the 10,000, the camera wouldn't have to come here. We wouldn't have to go through a process.
Because of the value of it, Ross?
No, because it's second-hand. The camera's deemed as second-hand, but the software is not.
I think Councillor Wickerson's question was the policy was saying that we don't purchase second-hand items. Is
Isn't there a tender policy that says
through
that?
the chair, the policy is you don't need to go through a competitive process for second-hand goods.
Oh, okay.
You can purchase second-hand, but it's...
Yeah, I misunderstood the first policy.
Okay.
That's good for future reference. Second question, probably following on from my colleague. The software and the hardware, is that scalable and upgradable? So in, say, 5 years' time or whatever, if the technology or the software improves, can we modify or add to that or adapt that equipment that we bought to make it cutting edge?
Yeah. Through the chair, yes, like any software, councillor, if it has updates, we can update our software as well to actually accommodate those updates within the camera system.
Okay, thank you. And the final question is that, and I was reading that you can zoom in quite a number of times to any part of the runway and with fewer cameras to cover the same area. But is that a manual thing? So do we have one of our existing operators sitting there at a console or something driving the cameras, or is it very sophisticated that it zooms in itself and tracks moving aircraft or people that might have breached security or something like that?
Yeah, so it's all recorded itself. There's numerous cameras there that record the footage. If we see something, say like a bird strike, like the Alliance bird strike that we had, we manually go in and zoom in on that aircraft approaching, and we can then have a look at the footage. However, we don't have to have someone there manually controlling the footage and recording the particular spots. It records the whole runway, all approaches at all times, 24/7, and then we can actually zoom in if we need to find if there was an occurrence there in regards to that bird strike.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So that sounds like great technology for a number of things. If we have a security breach, we've got evidence there for investigations, or if there's an incident, we've got evidence here, so it's going to be great value, I think.
Yeah, it's risk mitigation to the...
Yeah, good asset to invest in. Okay, thanks very much for answering those questions, Marcus. I think we've exhausted the questions, so we might move to the resolutions. Moved Councillor Fisher. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Mathers. We'll put that. Those in favour. Those opposed. Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Move on to our next item, 11.3, the major venues sole provider provisions. So hand over to Mark. Thanks very much, Mark.
Thank you. Yes, Council presents an annual program of performances and events, and this report details the specialised and sole suppliers that provide content and physical productions as part of our annual program. Council approval is sought to deem the nominated suppliers as specialised or sole suppliers in accordance with section 235A or B of the local government regulation.
Thanks very much, Mark. Councillor Wickerson, the portfolio spokesperson.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Just to commend the staff on putting another calendar of cultural events together. It seems to have a bit of a diversity, so targeting some of our younger residents in town, but right across the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wickerson, I see there's no further questions to that report. Councillor Wickerson, you're happy to move? Seek a seconder? Councillor Kirkland? I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors, and thanks very much, Mark. We'll move on to item 11.5, the development application for a material change of use for a dwelling house within the existing building. Oh, sorry, did I jump one? 11.4, sorry, Regional Arts Development Fund Committee. My fingers were marching too far ahead there. Sorry, Mark, and I've seen you waiting there, so I'll hand over to you to present the report. Thank you. My apologies.
This report seeks council endorsement to appoint persons to the Rockhampton Regional Council's Regional Arts Development Fund, the RADF Committee, and to also allow further applications to the RADF Committee to occur throughout the year.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Kirkland and Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Great, really good list of quality people there for the RADF judging. My question to you, Mark, is around potential conflicts of interest, though, because it's obvious that some of these potential candidates are heavily involved in some of the projects that might be seeking RADF funding. How do you manage that ordinarily in those instances?
As it's stipulated in the terms of reference for the RADF committee, if a member is involved in or has any sort of benefit or a conflict with an application, they leave the room they're not involved in the decision-making process or the assessment process. So in the case of a member stepping out, we have 5 members there. One member would step out if they have a conflict of interest for that discussion, and then once that discussion is resolved, we bring them back in for other.
Okay, so same as council.
Correct,
I probably
yeah.
wanted to point out that there's clearly a couple there that would end up in that position.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So making sure you had protocol. Good.
Thanks, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to follow up on that, I think from my memory when we've had previous applications, we've had a couple of occasions where someone on the assessing committee has also been an applicant, so absolutely they step out very quickly and come back in just like here. A little while ago we brought back a new format for the RADF committee to table, and just remind councillors that now I now chair that committee, but I don't have a day-to-day general vote on it unless there's a casting vote required. When there's 5, that's a little bit unlikely, but if one steps out, for example, or we get new members on board, and I'll chat about that in a sec, it may be a split, so I can use my casting vote to break that. It's a little bit different to the table, but so that's my role with it. And it keeps you a little bit at arm's length to assess without getting bogged down in the applications. Just to note, as Councillor Kirkland said, the diversity, so we have people from musical backgrounds, arts workers and visual artists, but also many people would know the name Joy Philippi, who's involved with many of our theatre productions, and a great asset to have on that committee. That's probably about all I need to say on that, so it's good. Oh, no, that's right, I've lost my train of thought. Future applicants to this board can still be assessed. I think the maximum mark is 10 we would consider up to.
We think 10 would be a comfortable number. If we got 10, I'd be ecstatic.
Yes.
The terms of reference will allow us to go up to 15, but 10 is quite manageable. Yeah.
So when we reviewed this list the other day, and they're all fantastic applicants, we had to talk about what would be sort of an ideal mix. You don't want a dozen people, and I think it's a bit unwieldy, but we would certainly entertain more people coming on board in case someone's away. That often happens. And just on the conflict again, it's not surprising that people that are in that arts community would like to be on the board, but it's a fairly tight community, so it's really to be expected that someone that's in that industry would also occasionally put an application in. So, but we have mechanisms in place to make sure that conflict's managed.
Absolutely, yeah.
So thanks, Mark. And happy to.
Thanks, Councillor Wickerson. Thanks, Mark, for those answers. Would you like to move as the chair portfolio there, Councillor Wickerson? Move, Councillor Wickerson. Seconder, Councillor Fisher, Deputy Mayor. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Now, move on to 11.5, development application for material change use for a dwelling house within the existing building.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors. This application was tabled at council meeting on the 11th of October. The council resolution was that the matter lay on the table just till we investigate the awning that's attached to the building to be retained, that's encroaching into council's road reserve. We investigated that and concluded that a dwelling house, so a class 10A, structure in accordance with the building provisions is required to be located or captured, located solely within the property boundary. So therefore we've recommended that condition 6.2 remain. We also think this will provide clarity and ensure that this approval won't conflict with further development approvals required to complete the development as well further down the track.
Red tape in my eyes. I think. It's a perfectly good awning, why would you remove it if it's an existing one? But that said, that's what the rules are. Councillor Rutherford?
Mr Mayor, can you give me just 2 seconds? I want to try and send a photo across to Linda,
Okay.
if I could.
Amanda, you're following the by the planning rules, but sometimes they don't align with the views from the table. So, yeah, I'm just not sure. I think we all went for a drive up there through the bus the other day, and it looked like a perfectly good awning. But yeah, there may be some others that. Anyway, I won't go into it any further. But yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, I suppose we're just concerned that they won't get a building certifier to sign off on it. So we don't want a condition or remove a condition that's not going to actually allow them to get their building certification, you know, their approval down the track, because we will be a referral agency as a concurrence agency to assess those setbacks under the Queensland Development Code.
Yep.
So yeah, it does complicate the process further on.
From that. Councillor Rutherford?
So, Mr Mayor, my fear, I get where the officers are coming from, and I thank Doug. He spent quite a bit of time with me yesterday walking through this and walking through very limited options. But my concern is the place next door, obviously, I think at one time had an awning and has removed it. And I'm really, really concerned that that's the look we're going to have once this one comes off. And that's not a win for the owners, and it's certainly not a win for Mount Morgan. So I just, yeah, that's my concern. It's, you know, while it's there, it has the same character as the rest of the shops that are just down the road, just one block down, or all the same. And then if it's taken away, does it look like the place next door? And I don't see that as a good outcome.
No, I'm in support there, Councillor. I just think it's, yeah, the character of the area would be diminished by removing that. But that said, we've got a number of lights on. Doug, did you want to respond to that? I struggle with this one.
Yeah, so thanks, Mr Mayor. One of the options that we discussed yesterday that you may want to consider is, as Amanda said, that condition is to add some clarity around the building certification. One of the options is, if you wish, that condition could be removed and it just remains silent, but that will not get rid of the requirement when they go through the building certification process to remove the awning. So we've got a planning report here, we've got the building certification, and they could go through council, they could go through a private certifier, but the Queensland Development Code is clear on this. So,
right. So what would the owner need to do to have it approved? Would he need to put in a retrospective application for it if that was the case, through a private certifier?
So as Amanda said, a dwelling has to be contained within the boundary under the Queensland Development Code. So there's no option to keep it there if it's to be a dwelling.
Could they put an application to council to relax that one in that instance, or no?
No. And just, sorry, Mr Mayor, just keep in mind they might not come to council, they might go through a private certifier. Yeah.
Councillor Rutherford?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, the way it was explained to me by Doug yesterday is that we've included it in our planning approval, but it's actually got nothing to do with us. It's under the Building Act. Now, they could come to us as a building certifier and we'd say, no, it has to go. They might go to another building certifier and that certifier might sign off on it. You know, it's a potluck type thing. However, Amanda, you've just mentioned that we are a referral agency for a building certifier.
We will be because of the boundary setbacks, because it'll be assessed against the Queensland Development Code. But as I said, that we're bound by that legislation that requires us, like that talks about the class, the structure has to be solely within the lot. And yeah, so it's not really an avenue around it other than to allow it to not approve it and have it remain as a commercial premise.
Yeah, so it's not, You know, and I worry if we take it out, you know, we could take it out because we don't need to have it in there, but if we do take it out and then the owners get caught up somewhere further down the track, it just makes it more difficult
Problem for them,
for
yeah.
them. So I'm not sure we've got any option at all.
No, and I'm joining the same conclusions, Councillor. I think we're bound by this one. It's just, unfortunately, logic would say that it's a good awning and it needs to go there, and rather than having a box front like the example next door. A couple of more questions. Councillor Smith, and then over to the Portfolio Chair, spokesperson Councillor Mathers.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. As I said last time, I keep seeing old shops that are now houses with awnings. And if the awnings weren't there, they would look funny. But my question to Amanda is, did these people come into council to apply to now live in it, or was it the subject of a complaint that people were living in that building that was following
I'm not,
CWA?
through the chair, I'm not 100% sure whether it was a compliance issue, and most, obviously, those situations are normally confidential, but I do, from my understanding, there has been some work already undertaken to the premise.
Yeah,
and it hadn't been used for its previous purposes for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
From my understanding, yes.
That's always, you know, the sad part is, that, you know, the books, these people have got to comply with the rules, but other people have been allowed to do it and just live there.
I'm not sure whether they're allowed to do it, Councillor. That's the trouble. It'll be a compliance thing. That's the difference there. So yeah,
it's quite a few of them.
Well, there's lots of things across the whole region that are not compliant, and
Yeah.
we could employ another whole workforce to be able to go and follow that up. But unfortunately, the rules are there for people to abide. So if they choose not to, then that's their decision, and there's consequences to that. But yeah, unfortunately, we do have quite a few that.
Mr Mayor, I understand the rules and, you know, being contained within the building, and I know when we were doing footpaths, Mount Morgan and Gracemere, if the awning posts weren't good, they had to be replaced. And I noticed that there is a new footpath with one of these posts of this place in the footpath. So obviously we've done a footpath there and knew that there was an awning there. I'm not quite sure whether it was before or after the CWA was in it. But if it wasn't good, they had to replace them in Gracemere and Mount Morgan.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether the civil ops team would be checking on what the building
that's right.
code is on those either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Just through you to Amanda, if that's okay. Amanda, am I correct in saying the owners of the property, are they aware of the conditions that have been put into place on this?
Yeah, through the chair, yes, they're aware of it.
And they have no real issues with the fact that they've got to pull the awning down?
No, they're aware of it.
So they're not pushing back on it?
No.
Yeah, I think that answers that question.
Thanks, Councillor Mathers. Councillor Wickerson.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. A couple of questions for Amanda. Businesses are in a different category, obviously, so they can have awnings over. If the residents were to have like a home-based business, it's still not their principal use of the building, so that wouldn't be a loophole that they could explore?
Yeah, no, through the chair, a home-based business, depending on how much, I'm not an expert on building certification, the floor space that they were doing a home-based business, sometimes you do have to change the building classification, but in this circumstance, it'll still be a Class 1A that it'll need to be, the building classification will have to be. And you can't, I suppose you can't create a home-based business if a home-based business doesn't exist. Like it just complicates the process, yeah. Understood.
And all for following the rules, but I think the intent of the rule is that a livable part of the dwelling doesn't come onto the road, which makes sense. You can't have that couldn't be a room out on the footpath, of course, but I think this is probably a catch-all that's picked up veranda awnings, which pedestrians can still use quite freely. So it's probably just in the wording of the original rule, which we've got to comply with. Because you think even the building next door with that small awning coming out over the stairs, they don't want to dob them in, but that wouldn't comply either. If you had a set of stairs coming out from the doorway onto the footpath, that wouldn't comply. access ramp. There's plenty down Key Street that I've noticed now that have got these checker plate little wheelchair ramps coming out. That's technically part of their businesses, but part of the business on the footpath. So things like that, if it was a residence, wouldn't comply either. So I think it's just in the original wording, unfortunately, that is a catch-all which has picked up an awning which probably isn't the intent of the proposal, but it is what it is, so we have to comply with it. So it's a shame.
Thanks, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, just picking up on something Councillor Wickerson's just said, and I'm not sure whether we would carry any weight at all, but I'm wondering whether it would be worth writing to the building authority people, whoever made that those rules, and said, listen, this has been caught up in this part of the legislation. Could we look at having it sort of relaxed for awnings? Because when you look around the place, there are some beautiful old, what was corner stores or pubs or the like, that have been returned to residents, or they have mixed use. It would be really criminal for those awnings to be taken away, because that would take the complete character of that building away, you know. So is there somewhere we can go to lobby or just put, you know, raise this? They may not even be aware that these awnings have actually been caught up in this piece of legislation.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Sorry, before we go to Doug, though, I think with the current housing crisis that we face ourselves with, there's pressure on to look at our planning scheme, to look at ways that we can put people into houses. And if there is a trend not to have these corner shops anymore and moving away from retail with online shopping and so forth, is that an angle we could start to advocate for, to look whether there's some type of a relaxation in that instance when we look at changing out from commercial to residential?
So through the Mayor, certainly, Council, we can look into that and check some intent and who we can question. Some of the examples like this that have previously been turned into a residential premises, they have awnings over the footpath. Because of when it was done, they're compliant. The issue with this one is it's today, under today's rules, not the rules 10, 20 years ago. And we checked a couple yesterday, and look, to be fair, there was some questions that we've got to look at and say, why was that done? But there's plenty of others that are compliant. But certainly, Council, we can look into who to talk to and maybe lobby, because that is the housing issue is a issue at the moment.
Yes. And if there's ways that we can resolve that by people taking advantage of doing some renovations to existing dwellings and making it housing options, and that's something we'd support.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Councillor Kirkland.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I don't mean to labour on the topic, and keen to get through the program today, the agenda today. But just to further add to that, is there any legislation through you, Mr. Mayor, to Doug, around the relevance of historical character? And certainly when we've got communities like Mount Morgan, where we're trying to keep, that's their main attraction out there, is the historical relevance of that area, and the community are so they're invested in keeping that historical component. Is there not something to protect that historical relevance of character around these types of buildings?
So just through the Mayor, like a good manager I am, I'm going to refer that question to Amanda.
Yeah.
I reckon she's going to be able to answer that for us.
Good. Thanks, Amanda.
No worries. Through the Chair, we could, I suppose there is areas in Rockhampton, and I'd have to check, there would be some in Mount Morgan as well. I haven't got them, obviously, the planning scheme in front of me, that we do have a character overlay on that. So if they're demolishing it, there are requirements to them to demonstrate there's a reason why they're demolishing it, or if they're building, there's certain elements of character that they have to incorporate in their design to ensure that that character does remain. In this particular situation, this site isn't subject to that, but we do have that in our planning scheme for other areas. And some councils do have a local heritage register. Like obviously we have a state register. Well, we don't, state government does, that protects heritage listed buildings. and some councils, which we haven't sort of developed yet, but can have a local heritage register as well. But I suppose the easiest way to protect that is through overlays, a character overlay across various areas of the region to protect that character. And we have, as I said, we have got that in place, but it just, in this instance, doesn't cover this particular site.
I think there's, sections in the range that have that, that overlay on it, and, for that purpose to retain the character of a street, so to speak. Unless it's heritage listed, the building is heritage listed. Unfortunately, this one doesn't come in either of those categories, but it's something we could look at in the planning scheme when you're looking at a whole precinct or a whole street or a whole location. Okay, thanks very much, Amanda, for answering that one. I think we've exhausted all the questions on that. So could I seek a mover and a seconder with regards to the officer's recommendation? Or did you have further question, Councillor?
Mr Mayor, I was just going to, I guess, wrap up a little with my thoughts. And the way I look at this at the moment, while I don't agree with it, the rules, but more importantly, I think it's important that we have people living in these buildings rather than them sitting empty. The more that are empty, the more they're getting vandalised and everything else. So it's much better to have something happening with these buildings than nothing.
No, for sure. Okay, that said, Councillor, we need a mover and a seconder with regards to the officer's recommendation. Moved by Councillor Mathers. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Latcham, we'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. That one was a difficult one, and one we thank the officers for all the work that they did answering all of our questions and looking to how we could look at ways to retain that awning. We're moving on to 11.6, risk register quarterly updates from as of the 1st of July 2023. I'll hand over to Ross to walk us through that one. Thanks very much, Ross.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This, unfortunately, not unfortunately, lucky for Cassandra, she's on leave this week, so I'll present this. This was the one that was lifted from the table earlier today and was workshopped a couple of weeks ago, which we ran through all that. So I guess it's there now for any questions. Mr Mayor, I'll take it as read.
I think we had the opportunity, Ross, during that workshop to walk through the questions that the councillors had, and firstly understanding the risk register and what that meant and how the ratings were developed and coming to that. And Cassandra did a fantastic job in walking the councillors through that process. So it's easy for everyone to understand those reports when they come through now, where those things are, and I'm sure the council will ask questions during those times. But unfortunately, it would have been good to have Cassandra there to say thank you. But pass that on if we could. I've got a question, Councillor Fisher.
Yeah, look, I was the person that moved for that to lay on the table. I have to commend the workshop and those details that did answer those questions, and probably we all had sort of some doubts, but I am very, very happy with what the progress was. Cassandra executed the workshop very, very well, and I agree that we can pass on our thanks, and would be quite happy to move this and thank the officers all involved. But sometimes we just need a little bit more time to actually digest some of these reports, so I think it's a good outcome.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Fisher. Move, Councillor Fisher. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Kirkland. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Move on to 11.7, the summary budget management report for the period ending the 30th of September 2022, and I'll ask Marnie to present that report. Morning, Marnie.
Good morning, Mr Mayor and councillors. Thank you. I'll present the summary budget management report for the end of September. So where we're at, councillors, we're at 25% of the financial year after the first quarter. Our operating revenue is sitting above that percentage due to the levying of rates and charges for the first half of the year, which were due on the 7th of September. You will note in the corporate performance report that we'll discuss later today that rates arrears were just over the 4% for the end of September, so still going quite well in terms of our arrear balances and recovery of those rates. Our grants and subsidies were ahead of budget as well, mainly due to the recognition of unearned revenue from the prior financial year. And we are seeing that our interest revenue with the change in interest rates is tracking quite well for this time of the year and due to our higher than forecast cash holdings at the moment. Operating expenditure is within the budget at 23%. Various contractors and consultants are under budget at 21. Asset operational expenses are under 20%, are at 20% due to the timing of payments, and admin expenses are under the budget at 19%. Our capital income is only sitting at 15%, but that's in line with our expectations at present. Our capital expenditure is sitting at only 13% of our carryover budget at this point in time. So you will recall, councillors, that when we did our carryover budget review, our capital budget moved from 187 million to 199. So at present, we're only looking at a spent amount of 13% of that budget, equivalent to around 25.1 million spent during the quarter. So at the moment, we are currently looking at our capital budget and reviewing that for the October monthly budget review, and we'll present further updates to council once that process is finalised in the next few weeks. You'll also note that our investments are sitting at 140.9 million and loans are at 150.2. So I recommend that the report be received.
Okay, thanks very much, Marnie. Questions, councillors? Councillor Kirkland, welcome.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Marnie, just in moving forward with the budget, thank you very much for this presentation, by the way, and there's a couple of things there that feel like a win and others that feel like, I don't know what we're going to do about that. But the questions that I have for you this morning are, with the projected 35% increases to electricity, did we just start changing our budget to accommodate that, or do we wait until it happens and suck it up? I don't know how that works. Can you explain to me how you incorporate that in the budgeting?
Sure. So through the Chair, Councillor Kirkland, we'll keep an eye on that electricity expenditure area in our operational budget. As noted, our operational expenses aren't above budget at this point in time, but we'll monitor that through the year, and if we need to make adjustments prior to the conclusion of the year, we can do that. But yeah, we will monitor that. It depends on when the timing of that passing on of that electricity increase as well. And because we've got a contestable electricity contract as well, so we've got two elements of where we're spending money in electricity. So we'll monitor those areas of expenditure and make adjustments if we need to through the year.
Yeah. Is it more monitoring than you normally would do, given that there's the anticipated?
Well, I think, and it's not my area, but I think, the officers involved will keep an eye on that and ensure that, if we are seeing that tracking above budget, then we'll have to obviously highlight that and make some changes as we see fit.
Yeah, thank you. Just one last question.
Councillor Kirkland.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, back to you again, Marnie. Here you mentioned about capital projects needing to gain momentum. Just wondering what levers, given that there's a lot of cross-escalation of the construction element that's holding that back, and staffing and a number of other things that aren't not touching any other part of our community. What levers will we use to gain momentum?
Okay, good question. Through the Chair. So we are currently, as I said, all the managers and budget owners are currently looking at our capital budget just to see what will be difficult to deliver because of those supply chain issues and other things, and make some changes on the basis of that. Whether that's delaying that budget expenditure to a later year, or or moving things around. There are, on the other hand, however, and having spoken to some of the managers, there are some quick wins and things that we will be able to clear in terms of our capital budget expenditure through various items that we can obviously get now. So they're the things that we're focusing on as well. So, but all those people involved in the capital budget delivery are currently looking at their programs and reviewing how or if there are impacts and what they might need to do in terms of when you say the levers, what changes may need to be made, keeping in mind that it's a really large capital budget, as we've talked about repeatedly. So they will be looking at cash flows and when things will be delivered, when there is impact on supply. You know, if we use fleet, for example, so I know that the fleet coordinator is looking at how the supply is going in that space. You know, there's probably a lot of orders that he has out, but how many will be, how much fleet can be delivered before, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Barney. Ross, did you have some further comment to that?
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just want to add to that. The CEO has been quite, recent times, been quite focused on this matter and has addressed all the managers, you know, to have that focus, as Marnie spoke about. So he's watching that as well. So it's quite topical.
Thanks, Ross. Probably my follow-up to that one. Ooh, 20 into the centre of the table.
Add some wife too.
I'll refocus that. Just that question, just a follow-up there with the fuel excise and you know, increase in fuel costs similar to the electricity costs. Was that factored into the budget at the start of the when the budget was being handed down, or do we look at having some fat in the budget to accommodate that that change going forward?
Yeah, so the fuel, I would suggest that the fuel increases, which we knew were going to occur post, you know, this time of year, we had to factor an element into our budget based on what was sort of spent last year, but with that increase. So yes, I expect that there has been that already taken into consideration, but again, it will be something that we'll need to monitor because day by day you can see those fuel prices increasing. I mean, we do have a bulk fuel contract, so that helps us to maintain our pricing in some ways, but we are seeing increases impacting
They're not immune
on the
to the shocks
organisation.
that everyone else is facing out in
Yeah.
the real world. Yeah. Okay, and again, we'll monitor that as the year progresses and keep an eye on the bottom line. Okay, Councillor, if we have no further questions to that report, I'm happy to move as recommended and seek a seconder. Councillor Kirkland, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Marnie. Brings us to the 11.8, the whole of council corporate report, performance report for the period ending September 2022. Ross?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I present this for council reception at this point in time. That's all.
Yeah, councillors, I think as Ross mentioned previously, we can take some questions offline, but if there are any things there we really need to raise at the table at this point, more than happy to take those questions at the moment.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to actually commend these. This is one of these ones that we've had numerous discussions early in your mayoralty, and I think these are getting back to as detailed as our old committee days. So, Ross, this was worth all the hard work, and it does answer a lot of those questions that we do get from time to time. So, I don't have a question as much as to sort of just say that I really appreciate these reports, and I'll second that motion to you, Mr Mayor.
Yeah. Just on that though, I think if there are questions that come up from the reports during any time, they're happy to, councillors are happy to go through to the managers and get those answered on behalf of your constituents in the community. So, no, great report, giving that information back there, and it's in the document. Okay, so I'm happy to move. Seek a seconder. Councillor Fisher. I'll put that. Those in favour. Those opposed. Motion is carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. That brings us to the end of our agenda items. We have two closed session items to be dealt with, 16.1, 16.2, legal matters reports for July 2022 to September 30, and a sponsorship for a major sporting event. So, councillors, could I move... we want to have a break first and then come back for the closed session stuff. So might go for a recess first, councillors, then we'll come back and we move into closed session. So can I have a mover and a second? Move Councillor Kirkland, second Councillor Wickerson, that we come back at 25 to 11 and resume the meeting. Put that. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine. Everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line. Ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine. Everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line. Ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Okay, could I seek a mover and a seconder that we resume the meeting? Move councillor Wickerson, seconded councillor Mathers. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. And again, I'm not sure if we didn't get a mover and a seconder for that, where we go. But that said, the motion's carried unanimously. Thanks, Linda. We do have an urgent business item. Councillor Wickerson, you have a request for leave. I'll hand over to you to present that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors would have been aware of the major flooding in New South Wales and Victoria. SES, Gracemere, Rockhampton and Mount Morgan putting together a number of particularly flood boat crews and clean-up crews to go down to relieve the fairly exhausted volunteers in New South Wales initially, and there might be more coming. So I've been told to stand up to be ready for that. So I request leave of absence from, I think it's infrastructure, while I'm away between October the 30th and November the 6th inclusive. So it's about a week away, day or two travelling at each end and then secondment in the middle. So looking forward to being able to help our neighbours.
No, thanks, Councillor Wickerson. Again, happy to support that request. It's the fatigue when you have back-to-back events and you know what they're facing and potentially further events. It's great to be able to share that that workload with other SES crews, and has been done in the past. It's a great opportunity to get the skills and knowledge as well that you can bring back to the region through our SES local volunteers and organisation. It's not a bad thing in the wash-up.
And just to add, Mayor, too, it's reciprocal. You know, we've had events where we've had people come in when we're just exhausted. And
we know exactly what it's like.
Yeah,
and
so it comes around.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'm happy to move. Councillor Fisher, you have
Yes,
like a second.
If I may, just commend Councillor Wickerson.
Oh, no.
You know, to actually have someone that is a member of our council to actually go and assist communities there, I think is very commendable. So, well done, Councillor Wickerson.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. But people will know that Councillor Swadley, my predecessor in communities, was also actively involved in SES and passionate about that. But it's absolutely a team effort. Even the ones that don't go away are still part of that team, and there's plenty of duties to do here while we're away. So it's certainly a one team with SES as well.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have a mover and a second with that recommendation. Has that got the dates there right, Councillor Wickerson? The 30th to the 6th of November?
Yes, that's right, man. Sunday to Sunday, basically.
Righto, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, Councillor, we have two items to be dealt with in closed session, and we need to move that the meeting be closed to the public to discuss the following items, which are considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulations 2012 for the reasons indicated, legal matter report and sponsorship of a major sporting event. So could I have a mover and a second with regards to that, please? Move Councillor Kirkland, second Councillor Mathers. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. And that the meeting move into closed session. I'm happy to move, and seconded Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. We'll move the meeting into closed session.
Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming. Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
remember that, baby.
Okay. Thanks very much, Linda. Councillor, we've walked through those two reports in closed session. Now we come to the officer's recommendation, 16.1, that the legal matters report containing the updates on the legal matters for Rockhampton Regional Council 30th September be received. I'm happy to move as recommended. Seek a seconder. Deputy Mayor Councillor Fisher, I'll put that. Those in favour? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. And 16.2, the officer's recommendation for major sporting one, that council approves sponsorship as detailed in the report for the bid for the major sporting event to be held in Rockhampton on a biannual basis every 2 years, and that council will authorise the CEO, executive manager for Advance Rockhampton to negotiate full terms and benefits of the sponsorship. I'm happy to move, and Councillor Rutherford second. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. That brings us to the end of our agenda items for the meeting. I'll officially close the meeting and thank everyone for your attendance. Thank you.